Okay, let's talk about some Azure AD PIM concepts. And the first concept is licensing. And what I want you to know here is when you do not need an Azure AD Premium Plan 2 license, and you do not need a license, so no licenses are required for users who are setting up PIM, setting up policies, alerting, and access reviews. So if they're setting up PIM, policies, alerting, and access reviews, the configuration of those, they do not need a license. When you do need a license is when the following happens. Users assigned as an eligible Azure AD or Azure role managed by PIM, so whoever's issuing the access request. Users who are assigned as eligible members or owners of privileged access groups. Users able to approve, reject activation requests in PIM, which is very important. I'll come back to that in just a moment. Users assigned to an access review, and users who perform access reviews. So this is really important, folks. You don't need an Azure AD Premium Plan 2 license if you're just configuring PIM and setting it up, but you do need it if the user that's trying to submit the request is managed by PIM, so you need that. You need a license if that user who's assigned as an eligible member or owners of the privileged access group. You need a license when the users are able to approve and reject requests. So whoever my couple global admins are that need to approve, reject the request, they need a license assigned, and then obviously for access reviews. So that's extremely important. So just something I want you to keep in your back pocket. And all of this is covered in the official Microsoft documentation as well if you need assistance there. Now the next concept is roles you can't manage in PIM. And so this is really important, but you cannot manage an account administrator. You cannot manage a service administrator role, and you cannot manage a co-admin role. So you cannot manage those roles. Now, also, you cannot manage Microsoft 365 specific RBAC roles. So what I mean by that is things like e-discovery admin or small roles like that are sub roles of the overall Microsoft 365 admin role. Now you can administrator like SharePoint admin and Teams admin and Exchange admin and security admin and those type of roles. So I want you to keep in mind though, you can't manage these smaller roles, sub roles. The other thing I want to talk about is multi-factor authentication. This is optional, but hey, it's recommended for PIM. So any user that's trying to request an elevated right here, we're going to challenge it with PIM, with MFA to make sure they really are who they say they are. So that's probably a good thing, right? And we just want to make sure that that account is not compromised, and this is not a bad guy trying to elevate their rights, because that would be really bad. So I would definitely recommend enabling MFA for that. I'll show you where to do that in another video. Now, if they have to authenticate against on-premises, then set up your identity provider to then be responsible for MFA. And then if you're using ADFS, that's kind of a whole other ball of wax. But if you're using ADFS, you can then do some things like requiring smart card-based authentication before they log into Azure AD. I mean, there's some other things we could do there. And that's all covered in the documentation. Okay. The next concept I want to talk about, just to get this out of the way, is email notifications. And so an email notification will be sent when a privilege role activation is pending approval, when a privilege role activation request is completed, and then when Azure AD PIM is enabled. So that's when you'll get an email notification. Now, who receives those email notifications for these different roles depend on your role. And so you could also tell it to set up email notifications for when for specific roles. So can be configured for specific roles, such as a security admin, global admin, etc. And I'll get more into those roles later on, so please don't worry about that. So these are just some of the basic concepts I want to talk through with you, just to make sure we all understand before we go any further. Now, in the next video, we're going to talk about secure and privileged access, and we're going to talk about how to design for PIM. Okay, so we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.